I became angry, depressed, and I began to withdraw from the world.
I swallowed a bottle of medication and sobbed endlessly.
Jealousy, despair, and self-loathing.
Throat tightening, headache building. It's all I can do not to cry.
My disorder spawns from anxiety.
I feel like stress is the most momentous factor in my mental health.
What are the most important mental health issues affecting high school students today? Depression and anxiety were the overwhelming responses of 127 Bay Area teens who answered this question. Where does this come from? The pressures to perform, to fit in socially, and self-doubt were the themes these brave and insightful teens shared. Here are some of their stories.
My chemistry teacher this year questioned my class about where they received most of their stress, and to my surprise, 75% of my class felt like personal pressure to cope with the excellence of other students has dominated their stressful mentality in high school.
The stress had built up to the point where I detested school and hated doing things in general. Often, I would beg Mom to stay home from school every single morning because I was so tired, having only slept 3 or 4 or maybe even 2 hours the night before. Sometimes due to homework, sometimes due to sobbing fits in the dark when I know nobody else can see or hear, and sometimes even both. I had begun to live for the sole sake of seeing crisp, printed A's running down my report card come January and June.
The most challenging mental health issue that my peers and I face as high school students is the impulse to constantly compare ourselves to others around us. Most specifically, it is often an attempt to strive for the successes that others have appeared to attain. This act of comparison can be committed subconsciously, and it submerges us further in an ever-deepening pool of jealousy, despair, and self-loathing. The physical manifestations of this problem can be witnessed in the exhaustion, anxiety, and difficulty in sleeping that many teenagers suffer as they spiral into mental and emotional instability.
I arrive home after a particularly hard day at school. Project after project, test after test, work keeps piling up. I feel pressure lurking in my temples and a warmth behind my eyes, throat tightening, headache building. It's all I can do not to cry.
I hear a little voice in my head, and as much as I try to stifle it and smother it, continues to whisper to me. It tells me that I can't succeed, that I can't triumph, that I can never live up to my hopes and dreams. And why? Because I am lazy, slothful, cowardly, the embodiment of the ills of human nature. It drags me deep down to a swirling vortex of negativity from which I cannot escape and in which I may be trapped for hours, even days. Eventually, I give in. Yes, failure will be the only option. Yes, I should work harder, and yes, I won't be able to work harder because I am lazy and awful. I fall prey to a vicious cycle where I am dragged along into the insidious plot of beating myself into the ground, deeper and deeper.
Why can't I be as smart as her? Why aren't I as athletic as him? Why do I seem so untalented compared to everyone else? Teenagers are masters of playing the comparison game. However, comparing can be destructive, and teens can develop negative self-images and unhealthy misconceptions of the worth and identity.
A quiet somberness would wrap around her from time to time. A change in the pitch and volume of her voice would cause me to wonder who had come and occupied her fatigued body, her now sullen face. Behind the oversized, baggy, and long-sleeve clothing, they both hid their self-induced cuts and burns, their self-lacerations, their pain relievers.
What renders this mental health issue so difficult to cope with is that it resides in us internally, festering in the back of our minds when we obtain a below-average grade in an exam, feeling consumed with jealousy when we hear the news about another relative attending a well-known university, and also wallowing in self-pity if we don't feel attractive enough to find a date to prom.
My anxiety stems from perfectionist tendencies. This became clear to my parents early on. Not many 9-year-olds recopy pages of homework to correct spelling errors and messy handwriting. And in addition, even fewer 9-year-olds burst into tears after a spelling error is made on the new perfect copy.
My disorder spawns from anxiety, a plague that has made me hesitate in every endeavor. At the age of 10, my issues skyrocketed, and my disorder began to manifest itself in the form of an anxiety disorder. I feared movie theaters, restaurants, certain smells, and most of all, being alone. When put into the presence of these triggers, I would start to feel as though I was literally dying. I would get short of breath and become convinced my throat was closing. My heart would race and I would cry. Whoever says that mental illnesses don't have physical effects clearly hasn't experienced or witnessed such things. In 8th grade, I battled another bout of anxiety, this time accompanied by depression and self-doubt. I began to self-harm and developed trichotillomania, compulsive hair pulling, which caused bald spots on my head.
I cannot say when I am sure my anxiety had begun. It seems as if I had always had it. My anxiety had gotten so tremendously bad during my sophomore year of high school, I often broke down in tears during class. I had to be excused from school many times and began failing classes.
Often hidden behind smiling faces, straight A's, circles of friends, and loving families, teens are suffering and don't know what to do, how to change their situation, or how to ask for help. Yet, even through their pain and silence, many have found their way.
Teenagers need time to be just that, teenagers. As important as knowing how to derive a function can be, students should have the time to spare into thinking about their beliefs, into thinking about their identities. Having a strong social network is key to managing stress and growing up. Relating to others and developing empathy for others' feelings and experiences enriches students and prepares them for the future. Chronic stress for adolescents stems from the struggle between their natural need to find their identities, goals, and dreams in life, and engaging into what society has taught them they are supposed to be doing.
My mother had bought a few self-help books over the years that claimed to do everything from increasing self-esteem to soothing the mind through meditation. With this breakthrough, I was able to control my reactions more effectively, now being able to act as a mediator between my anxious feelings and my physiological and emotional responses.
I want my peers to realize that achievement is not an indication of worth, and that failure is not a reason for depression. Instead, it is strong character and a positive mentality that will be their strengths through the trials of life, and which in time will ultimately lead to restoration, blessings, and rewards.
My schizophrenia, with the help of the right medications, has gone away completely. I can now happily and truthfully say I am okay, and that I am not my past, my scars, or my mistakes. Instead, I am my happiness, my smile, and above all, my recovery.
If I had any advice for friends and family members of those with mental illness, it would be to just listen. Listen to what they have to say because it's important. Listen because what they're telling you is what you've been trying to find out all along. Don't judge, just listen.
As caring adults, we must listen to our teenagers and recognize these issues. And as teens, it is important for you to know that you are not alone. Talk to someone. Reach out.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
You are not alone.